Woohoo! I think we are live. Hello, everyone. Happy Freedom Friday. Yes, 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 yes. I am here again live with one of my favorite guests. I think he's been on my show around 3 times already. Repeater, 3 times the charm. And we're going to talk about those 3 times the charm, right? Because I am here with my friend, Dr. Nima Romani. And we were just talking about how we have been friends for almost 10 years, or a little bit more than 10 years, actually, because we met when I was going through my first divorce. And together we have been going through 3 divorces together. So 3 times is indeed the charm.
You
And
really get to know somebody as you kind of help each other go through shit like that, right?
I know. And you grow so much because, I mean, we were just talking about, do we know about, we can talk about relationships because we have lived them, we have dived into them, we have crawled out of them, we have
picked them apart. That's what we like doing. We pick them apart.
We have dissected them, and we have grown in the process in order to be able to help others. So welcome to the Get Naked Show with Dr. Auda. Dr. Nima, it's my pleasure to have you here again. Can you introduce yourself a little bit to my audience, please?
I was super excited when I woke up this morning. I'm here in beautiful Victoria, BC, and I was like, oh my God, I get to speak with Auda. I've been a chiropractor, and we actually met in Cairo Mission, serving the Dominican Republic with chiropractic care. And then it was one of those friendships that have kind of endured the test of time. And then every time we hang out, it's like brother-sister bond that is very unique. So I'm really grateful to be able to be kind of linking arms with you, not just in chiropractic, but then kind of moving it beyond, using the universal principles of chiropractic and how they pertain to relationships, how they pertain to healing, how they pertain to purpose. And I love being part of this conversation of authenticity.
Woohoo! So yes, we are going to get raw and real on relationship talk here. And so if you're there, let us know where you're watching from. I'm checking out this StreamYard for the first time. So I'm very excited to see your comments and see how I can read them. So please put your city where you're watching from. If you have any questions for Dr. Nima or I regarding relationships, please post them below too. We wanna know what you're struggling with. I know everybody has been sequestered in some form of another with their loved ones, and maybe they're not their loved ones anymore. because let's get real, we are in close spaces with these people, and this is all the people. I do feel. Hi, Sherry. Oh, she's in Panama. Thank you for commenting. Let us know where you're watching from. Share with friends. Share to your pages because this is going to get hot. And we are going to talk about commitment phobia and commitment avoidance and definitely relationship limbo. All these things that are
codependency. Codependency is a big one too.
Codependencies. I know we were talking about how I probably have been guilty of everything. Is that too raw and real? Is that too honest?
You're just like, we're just making the list. Check. Yes. Codependency. Yeah. Toxic relationship. Check. Oh yeah. Totally. Commitment phobe avoidant. Yeah. Check. Totally. That's me. And what we were saying was that you and I show up pretty similar in relationships. Which is kind of embarrassing.
It's like we would see each other in a mirror, right? And he would be like, "Ew, I don't want to see that."
That's my Latin female version right there. Holy shit.
Oh my God. It's too funny, but it's real. And that's why we're going to talk about these topics that a lot of people don't feel comfortable talking about, but it needs to be said. And I am sure Dr. Nima is going to be giving out some amazing naked tips on how to deal with it and how to swim through this ocean that can be scary at times, or a lot of times, and that is keeping us from our best life now. So because it is amazing, and we were just talking that Dr. Nima just got married, so his commitment phobia just got conquered.
Commitment phobia, like extreme paralysis. Commitment phobia. I never thought this was going to be possible, but it happened last weekend. like less than a week ago.
I
So
know. I was there through Zoom. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. And I can't believe it. I almost couldn't believe it that Nima is got married just because, again, we've been dealing with this similar relationship patterns that have taken us through abuse, through codependency, and through running away as far as we could when commitment was mentioned.
totally, totally.
So yeah, we're going to talk about that, and we might be even dive a little bit into me, because why not? A free therapy session I take any minute, anytime I can get. But what do you think that people, like most people, think they don't have any relationship issues, right? Because you avoid the topic, first of all. So in your opinion, what would be a major red flag into the knowing that maybe there's something we need to look at further? Maybe it's time to reassess.
Well, it's a good question. This concept of commitment phobia, this feeling, this sensation of deeply wanting to be in a partnership, but then having these avoidant tendencies, it's called insecure avoidant. Now there's these, this is all about attachment theory, and attachment theory talks about the way that you were attached to primary caregivers, your mother and father, even before you could even talk, plays a significant role in how you partner in your romantic relationships. It's pretty much all about that. And there's a few different categories. The ideal that we are looking for, kind of like the holy grail of human existence, is to create what's called a secure attachment. When you're raised with parents who they themselves are very regulated in their nervous systems, they are very calm, they have an ability to emotionally regulate themselves, they were consistent there for you, you knew that they were there, there was this permanence and consistency with their parenting where you weren't wondering, are they going to be here? Are they going to show up the same person? Who's going to show up now? Well, you didn't have to worry about those things. And if you had parents that when you had big feelings come up, they didn't bring themselves in it. They were able to be a safe container, a safe witness for you to have your emotions, express them, and move through them and teach you how to regulate them because they themselves were able to regulate. You, in all likelihood, have had what's called a secure attachment. And when you're a secure attachment in a relationship, you don't have codependence, you have interdependence. You don't have a problem giving and receiving love. You there's a safety that you feel yourself in your body. So then you're able to create that as a safe container within your relationship. And in all research that they've shown, it's not really about looks. It's not really about what they can give you, money. The highest predictors of satisfaction that you'll have in your relationship is those with a secure attachment. Now, if you were raised in like you and I were talking about, where big emotions weren't soothed, and you were often blocked emotionally, like your emotion, because your family, your parents, especially your mother, wasn't able to regulate her own emotions, you got blocked emotionally, and your parents maybe were absent emotionally or even physically, and they were only present when they were teaching, and you were rewarded and given a star when you did something, right? And somebody wasn't there to respond to you in a timely manner, and you were basically forced to kind of stuff it down and deal with it yourself. Then this is the history and the presentation of this dismissive, avoidant, kind of distancer type of relationship, where later on what's going to happen is you're going to get into relationships where commitment is terrifying to you, because deep down you want to have that love bond, you want to be bonded with someone, but you're afraid because your emotions weren't soothed. You want to distance yourself when they come up, and you want to deal with it yourself. You're the one that always says, I need space, and I'm terrified of a relationship because I'm paralyzed. I'm scared of losing my freedom. And this is basically where it all comes from. Yeah, this is all where it all comes from.
I love it. And hi, Kaylee. Kaylee was watching. She said the original gangsters here. If you're there, say hi. Let us know where you're watching from and post your questions. If you have any questions or concerns about relationships, if anything has shown up, again, this is a naked show with Dr. Auda, and we're here to get raw and real about what we're thinking, but we're not saying, or we don't even want to say to our partners because we are in a boiling pot right now, stuck at home all the time. So we don't want to create any drama. But it's good to talk about it, and we're here to help you. So you mentioned just now that we lose our freedom, and I can relate to that, obviously, because to me freedom is one of my top values. Freedom everywhere, right? Financial freedom, emotional freedom, relationship freedom has always been, and I know it's something that comes from way past, because even when I was little, I wanted to be in such a control relationship so I could always find the exit, step away if I needed to, and just find that freedom, that air that we, especially right now in the situation where we're living, we feel like we're lacking. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We seek freedom when we had felt that we didn't have it. And so the interesting thing is I just remember being in my marriage and feeling this lack of freedom to express, freedom to date who I wanted. I just felt such constraint when I was married the first time. And I just wanted this sense of freedom. And so finally I divorced, and I was like, that's it, I'm going to get a divorce so that I can get my freedom, right? Woohoo, freedom. And then what I discovered was that I was now free to date, but I was constrained by the obsession of who am I going to date next? Where am I going to go next? And so what I discovered is that you cannot have freedom without constraint. And so now and in the last 10 years of having this ultimate freedom of dating, what I discovered was I was constrained by not having that safe space at home. And now when I met Diana and I did my own healing work, when I discovered this pattern within me that was this avoidant that just wanted freedom, I discovered that freedom that I was seeking came with its own constraints. And little by little, I started to go back to where that pattern began, which is childhood, and started to change my relationship with myself at that time and heal the relationship and the resentments that I had with my parents. In fact, after my last breakup a couple years ago, I was like, holy crap, this pattern is happening too much. I keep wanting to push away. I never want to commit. I don't want to be in my 50s still going through this dance. I do not want to do that anymore. I need to actually heal it. So what I did was I did the unthinkable. After my last breakup a couple of years ago, when I really wanted to heal from this avoidant kind of commitment phobe tendency, I then moved, I put my place up on Airbnb and I moved back in with my parents. I moved back in with my parents and I was like, all right, I'm going to heal this resentment, not just here, but actually here in my body, because I can say and talk, not because of what I'm saying, but actually feeling a healing with them. And long story short, 2 years later, they got to attend my wedding, and it was probably the most beautiful experience of my life, and something that I have absolute certainty about now. And I'm not afraid of that commitment. I'm not afraid of that constraint. That avoidant commitment phobe is now all in, because even though I'm constraining in my options, I now feel this incredible sense of freedom to now be able to explore and to teach and to take risks that I wasn't, because my energy was so focused on this kind of this black pit of constraint in my life of who am I going to partner with. And so now I have complete freedom in other areas of my life, and I totally appreciate the road that it takes to heal from that commitment phobia.
Wow. So you just mentioned the road that it takes. So what would it be for our listeners or anybody that is listening to this and they're like, okay, well, that's not me. Or how would I start this road to healing? How would I even know I have this black pit that I need to
Yeah.
heal? And what is it going to take, right? Because you want to see, I mean, I want to see the steps, right?
Yeah.
And some of my people do, and some of the people watching, they're like, okay, so I am okay where I'm at, but whatever. You feel, we fight and I want to kick him out, but yeah,
Yeah.
eventually it's okay. And you get used to this. You get used to your normalcy because you just don't want to deal with what's under the rug. So
Totally.
how can we just, and ease people's mind into knowing that looking under the rug, although scary, is so good for you. Getting naked indeed is going to be so good, and
Yeah.
the journey, this road that we need to take is so uplifting that may help you shine in that current relationship at the same time that you're going to shine anyways because you're going to work on yourself. So no matter what the outcome, you're going to do great. But what can we
Yeah.
tell those people that don't even know if they need it or
Yeah.
want it or how to even start?
Yeah, good question. Well, the first place to start is kind of look at the history and presentation of these symptoms and see if this kind of resonates with you, if as far as being avoidant or commitment phobe. This is really important. If you, there was this, we shared this before the call, is like you stuffed it down as this need to be self-sufficient way too early. If you had this need to be self-sufficient way too early, you had this difficulty reaching out for help, and you don't feel this sense of nourishment from your relationships. In fact, relationships feel like they drain you. They don't nourish you, they drain you. You always have this experience of feeling drained in a relationship rather than feeling nourished. And you have this feeling like you're longing for connection, but you feel blocked from really letting people in, blocked in your vulnerability. You feel uncomfortable when things get a little too intimate, and you really look down on people who act needy. And a lot of times you're confusing normal loving behavior as being needy. These are some of the signs. Is that resonating with you?
I'm like, are you describing us? And what are you
Yeah.
doing? Right.
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
I can totally relate. That's why I love these conversations with you. And I just feel that sometimes it takes us to being hit really hard, right?
Yeah,
With something. And in the
totally.
Naked Show, we always talk about how our setbacks are our push forwards. And
Totally.
we always can see, because you just mentioned the polarities in the world, which is just with everything, just as much good, there's as much bad. We couldn't have one thing without the constraint, right? So I know that sometimes, yes, we need to fall down really deep. And that has happened to both of us, right? We have gone to the pits and had to crawl ourselves out of there and do the work because it was our only way out. It was like breathing is your only choice when you're in the middle of the ocean and you have to, you're swimming is your only choice. You don't have another choice. So yeah, I think about all this and I'm like, could we do this work even if we don't have such fall, right?
Yeah.
Could we really get ourselves to the edge of growth even if we don't have something horrible or go through a divorce or an abusive relationship or such?
Well, the short answer to that is that if we were to doing the work basically means consciousness work. It's a 24/7 endeavor. Is that, where is my attention in this moment? Am I connected into my body? And so most of the time, because it didn't feel safe to be in our bodies, because of those experiences in childhood, you show up either the avoidant or the distancer avoidant, or the needy pursuer codependent. So those two kind of get mashed together. And most of the time, these complexes come from childhood, and you're totally unconscious of them. You don't know that you're playing them out. You don't know that you don't know. It's only through relationship, getting into relationships, where these old complexes are actually brought to light. And they're brought to light through your triggers. So the trigger becomes information that your nervous system is giving you that uncovers the old wounding that was in your body, that's not even at a cognitive level, that you don't even remember. because we don't have memories here mostly. We have them intrinsic in our body. So you say something to me, your voice gets raised just a little bit, and all of a sudden I get triggered. I think of my mother, right? That's what I'm talking about. It's not a conscious process. So oftentimes we require these wake up calls, health diagnosis, relationship complete collapse, financial disaster, for us to wake up and then look and then see that we actually haven't really been the ones in control. We've been sleepwalking through life, and we haven't been choosing. Those old complexes have been chosen for us. And it's the wake-up call that gets us to look at ourselves, unpack all those stories, so that then we can create choice and agency in the second half of life and move on to create what I call the holy grail of human existence, which is a secure attachment, where your relationships actually feel nourishing rather than depleting, where you're experiencing a deep wanting and a desire to reconnect, that the relationship becomes a safe place where you can use each other to regulate and heal rather than being the cause of actual contention of each other's state of alarm and dissociation. The relationship becomes a safe place where you can, from the world where there's a bubble, and you can actually use one another to help one another heal and evolve and grow. And that's really that was 2 years ago what I wanted. It took a wake up call for me, Aura. I wish, but here's the thing. If I was to stay conscious each and every day through my spiritual, meditative, journaling practices, where I can remain intentional and pay attention to where my attention goes, then I don't need to attract these wake up calls. They're only brought into my life to wake me up because I'm asleep and I'm dissociated from my body. Health problems will come up. Dissociated from where I'm placing my attention and intention. So, or I'm getting too needy and greedy. I'm coming from a place of ego. So hence the financial collapses will show up. This is a practice. It's an awareness. It's a way of life. And usually it's after the midlife crisis and a couple of failed relationships that wake us up to go, okay, no, I'm going to start to live authentically. I'm going to find out who I am. I'm going to express myself in a congruent way. I'm going to learn how to emotionally regulate myself rather than trying to have somebody outside of me to do it for me to make me feel safe. It's my job to create safety in my own body.
Oof. Well, so many triggers right there for me. But yeah, sometimes it doesn't take that wake up. It's just being aware. But most of us are asleep, right? Most people are asleep. They're going through the motions. And I think what we are having as a globe is this with this thing that is happening. It's almost a wake up call, right? It's a wake up call to what our true values are.
Well,
Reassessing our relationships, everything
that has been in the background that we've been distracting ourselves from by work, the distractions are gone, and now it's exposing all of our incongruencies, our lies, our inauthenticities are right in our face, and it's very uncomfortable. And our nervous systems collectively are dysregulated. I mean, this virus thing we can't fight, regardless of whatever your opinion about it is. We don't have to get into a discussion on the conspiracy theories of it. That's fine. We can't fight it. We can't run. Like, I can't get on a plane and fly to Fiji. I can't fight or flight. So we're now in a collective state, as Donnie Epstein says, we're in a timeout. Go to your room. We're in a freeze. So our nervous systems are remembering earlier traumatic memories where we had an overstimulation with which we could not do anything. So we were in this collective freeze, and we are paralyzed. We feel immobilized. We feel completely in what's called dorsal vagal shutdown. The nervous system is overstimulated, and we're like literally playing dead, and we're in a freeze. And so it has never been more important of a time than now to start to learn how to self-regulate our nervous systems, so that then when we do, we can then start to emerge as leaders to people, to communities, to our communities where everybody's in a freeze. They need us the most right now. but we can't help them if we
Don't help
ourselves
yourself.
are in a position of freeze. So the people who've done their inner work and they've healed those old traumas and their old wounds, right now are thriving. Right in this moment is like, oh, crisis. Like I've gone through, in the last 10 years, I've gone through about 4 or 5 major crises. And I've approached them from a standpoint of a researcher of how do I shift my way of being so that I can actually come through better rather than spiral downwards. I've really been interested in researching that. So when this COVID pandemic showed up, I had all of these events lined up that I was, facilitating all around the world. I had an event in New Zealand, an event in Toronto, event in Miami, actually in June. Hopefully that'll still be going on. I'd love to come hang out when I see you, when I come there. But all of a sudden, all of those were taken away, and I had to sit there and process, okay, so what's coming up for me? I'm feeling like, all of those old woundings from our authorities, go to your room, started coming up. So that's why I created my overview method, which is an integration of all of the amazing mentors that we've been privy to studying from, and plus my own spin on it, and bringing back nervous system regulation with attachment theory and polyvagal theory, combining it all together so that I can show up the most resourced version of me. Started a Facebook group called Trigger Proof. And now my events have gone virtual, and I'm teaching people how important it is to regulate their nervous system so that they can show up as leaders, because their children are now looking at them going, hey, how are you dealing with this adversity? And they're learning from us. And, not just for me. Here's the most important part for me personally, is that I'm about to have a baby in October, and I know about the nervous system, and I know that everything happening in my wife's nervous system and blood flow is being downloaded onto my kid. So this has become very personal, a personal desire for me to make sure that she and I feel completely safe at secure attachment with one another, because that is going to impact the life of my child for the rest of their life. So that didn't start with me, but it can end with me, the intergenerational trauma. So that's the most important conversation we ought to be having right now.
Whew, yeah, indeed. This time out has been a gift, and it has been a gift to so many. I know it has been a gift to me in so many ways. And not only getting to know myself, my children, gets to spend that time, get to explore, because human behavior fascinates me. And this kind of situation has given me a window, not only with my clients and my patients that I'm still seeing in the office, into what they're thinking, into how fear affects you, into how, all these traumas just come up when we feel our freedoms taken away, right? And it's been self-discovery and empowering, because I know the more work I do with myself, and I think it was just Dr. Knowles just posted a picture of me when I spoke in Mile High last year, and I said, you cannot give from an empty cup, right? He put it, that quote that I said while I was speaking, you got to work on yourself first. If you want to make an impact in your community, if you want to make an impact in your children's lives, if you want to make an impact in your current relationships, it has to come from your source first, and you have to work on yourself. So I know you have something going on this weekend that is going to help us get a little bit deeper. And then I also want to talk a little bit about the breathing exercises. Maybe we can even share an exercise that people can start doing here, because I like to give people things they can use right now, naked tips that they can use to improve their lives right now. But can you tell me a little bit about your event this weekend, and how does it work being online now? And I will put the link for people to go there while you tell me about it.
Yeah. Okay? So when I was in my chiropractic practice full time, I created this 3-hour workshop called Life Skills for a Stressful World. I found that my patients who came and learned how to take responsibility for themselves, they had better outcomes. That was 10 years ago. In those 10 years, fast forward a whole bunch of series of events, it's now a 3-day live event called the Overview Experience, where we actually go back to looking at these primitive relationships that you've had, these attachment wounds. We uncovered where these attachment wounds came from. You get to actually experience a felt sense, body-based reconnection with yourself in those wounded parts of you, those unhealed younger parts that you pretty much abandoned in service of approval. You get to reconnect with that part of you and begin a new relationship with that inner child, not just cognitively, but also in the body, so that you can start the process of healing those attachment wounds, so that when the triggers come up afterwards, you're now able to regulate them rather than become reactive. You're learning how to become response able rather than completely lose your shit, avoid, check out, all of these things that our nervous systems do unconsciously. You begin the path of mastery of expanding that space between stimulus and response, so that because if you don't expand that space between stimulus and response, you don't have choice in life. You're governed by those old complexes, and you basically relive the past again and again and again. But when I can expand that space between the stimulus of whatever Aura just said that caused me to lose my shit, and I can now expand that space and go, where does that come from? That's my 5-year-old self with my mother. And I can now give that 5-year-old the parenting he didn't receive and needed at the time. Now that space is gone like this, and I don't have to destroy my relationship with Aura. I can take responsibility for whatever what she brought up in that trigger, and I can heal myself with it and create deeper intimacy with Aura instead of fracturing my relationship with her. That's how you heal your attachment wounds. It's through practice. It's through awareness. It's through making your number one priority to take responsibility for whatever things come up for you and using them to go inside and to create deeper bonds. That's how I've been able to put this thing on, a chronic avoider, a chronic dismisser, a chronic kind of like commitment phobe. I'm committed to that process. And it's a beautiful process because each and every week, each and every month that we're together, we become closer as a result of it. And that is the new kind of vision of relationships that I have for kind of the vision that I have for communities is that we all heal and evolve and grow together. The same thing can happen in friendships. Same thing can happen with your children. With everything, right? And so why, as a chiropractor, I'm so interested in this is because all of the patients that come to see us are really dealing with stress-related disorders. And if you really get to know them, it's after a divorce, it's after a breakdown, it's after some sort of a grief or a separation or a fracture in a relationship that's caused the biggest stress. So if we don't learn the skills in taking our triggers that relationships all show in our face, especially during COVID-19, and learning how to go inside and heal that, then we're constantly fracturing and waiting for mommy and daddy to come rescue us. And the answer is the hero is you. And so the weekend workshop, the overview experience is an experience where you get to get a felt sense through the exercises. It's a 5-hour event live. I've condensed that 3-day experience now to a 5-hour workshop where there's movement, there's music, there's sharing. It's a group call on Zoom where we actually go back and reconnect with the younger parts of us that were abandoned, that were betrayed, that we feel ashamed about, and we reconnect. And we learn the skills in self-regulation through the body, through the breath, through communication, and healing happens over the weekend.
Woohoo! Ooh, well, there's the link. If you still have some time, and I know there's some spaces left, so go to the link and you can
There's two.
register and see two spaces left and see about have some healing. It's only 5 hours and you're at home, so go check it out. But what can we tell people that are watching today and that want to know how to regulate their breathing because they are about to slap their child for
Right.
A, B, or C because
Perfect.
domestic violence is at its
Yeah.
highest. So
Yeah.
is suicide attempts. So is violence in the home.
We're about to face it. We're about to face an epidemic of mental health disorders, and I am really looking for people who want to be at the leadership position when this is happening, this is happening. It's happening around us. I went hiking yesterday and this woman just lost her shit on me because I walked a few, stay away from me. And I was like, whoa. And then I could actually, it was as though I was holding her at gunpoint. She had just lost her shit. And I was just
it's like
hiking.
Fear. What fear can do. I had an experience at the post office this week and I said, oh my God. I was like, where am I? Am I in a movie or something? People were super rude. They were screaming. They didn't look at you. They were like going nuts for nothing. And I'm like, I'm just trying to drop my mail here.
I'm like, hi, how are you? I told that woman, I was like, I totally understand how scared you are. She's like, I have a 4-year-old with a disability. Stay away from me. I'm like, okay, I'm really sorry that you're going through this. And I was able to. So what we do is here's what you do. What you do is you go inside and you put your hand over the alarm feeling in your body. I learned this as you met Dr. Russell Kennedy.
Love his thing.
Yeah, he's one of my good friends.
Yeah.
You put your hand over the alarm and you basically feel the feelings, and whatever's happening around you, what you want to do is you want to ask the question, just like when. It's like, what am I feeling right now? I'm feeling out of control. I'm feeling like I'm letting people down. I'm feeling like scared for my future. I'm feeling like all of my scarcity fears.
Valid, by the way.
Yeah, all of my scarcity fears are coming up. All of my I'm out of control feelings are coming up. My need for control is now being because I can't control this situation, and my tendency to need control is really coming up, right? So my need for control, what is it? What is my feeling? I'm out of control. I'm not safe. Like you want to get in and actually feel the thing inside here. You want to get into your body and get into sensation without the explanation. And you want to feel it and breathe into it and ask the question, just like when. And then I did this on other shows. Someone was like, well, just like when my parents got divorced when I was 4. That feeling of not knowing what's next. Where am I going to live one day or to the next? Am I, where am I? Like, this is not what's happening, is not what coming from COVID-19. It's actually coming from something a lot earlier that you haven't yet learned how to manage.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah. So
what you want to do is you want to go to the real thing that's happening. Every trigger, you want to learn and maximize this skill. This is the skill that will take you far beyond this whole COVID-19 thing. Because this will change your relationships, it'll change your business, it'll change your practice, everything. So you want to go in and actually feel where it's coming from and just become aware. This is the number one thing is just to have an awareness of where it's actually coming from and to reconnect with that part of you. And just by taking care of that part of you and learning how to regulate that part of you and to bring down the alarm of that part of you and spend time with that part of you, this external thing that's happening now starts to take care of itself.
Ooh, love it. I love it. Just like when. And what happens is something comes up that is really even more scary than what you're feeling right now. How did you get back there and heal that? Let's say indeed you remember how when your parents got divorced and they got into a really bad fight and he just walked out and you felt so scared that you needed to go hide in your closet because this was happening, and then you remember that, and that's even worse than your husband not taking out the trash and you feeling betrayed, you know.
What you want to do is you want to actually, then the next step that we teach, the next step that we teach is actually going and joining that part of you, and really, like, let me ask you this question. You're a mother, right?
Yes.
How old? Okay, let's say you saw your daughter in the closet crying. What would you do?
I will go directly to her and just hug her. I would embrace her.
That's the answer of what you do with yourself.
Yeah.
We did a little thing like that one time, didn't we? But that's the answer.
I need to go back to making out with her again. And I'm talking about myself for those people that are
what you actually do is you join that part of you that you've abandoned. That's the gift of the trigger. The gift of the trigger is it's a portal that allows you to go in and get access to healing the part of you that you've abandoned. And there's a million parts of me that I abandoned throughout my life. So this healing work is an ongoing thing, constant thing of me being able to observe what's happening around me and use that to go and heal another part of myself.
Ooh, I love it.
This is a self-healing tool that I've come up with.
And like I've always said, the Geneikin system is also something you use constantly as feelings and emotions arise or complaints arise. And I think complaining is a huge window into knowing what it is that we need to look further into, right? Because when we complain, that is like our reality check. That is time to take a closer look. So that's what I tell my clients. I love this, and it's constant work. This self-discovery fascinates me, probably because I use it constantly, and it has helped me, has saved my life, and it has, and I know this is what we need. All of us need and want this, even though they don't admit it. So.
We teach what we most need to learn.
It is so true. That's why I love you, Nima, and that's why I love this work, because I need to keep learning it and using it, and in order for us to become the leaders that this world is going to need and needs and wants, because so many people are hurting. So many people are hurting on the inside, and now it's becoming more obvious than ever because all the mirrors have fallen and the masks are coming out, literally. Not the ones that we're wearing outside, but the masks are being discovered, and nakedness is there. And sometimes the nakedness is scary and not pretty, and we can heal it. So I love the work you're doing. So anytime that you want to come on my show, I love having you. And congratulations on being married, on your baby. Definitely go to his link, sign up, go there on Sunday. I might even crash the party just because I love anything you have to say. And it's been fascinating to be through this work with you and to see it being born. You were there when Geneikin was born. You've been there through it all. So it has been quite the journey. And for anybody that is watching this on replay, you can post comments on replay and post questions, because I know questions are going to come up. And if you feel too shy to do that, you can message Nima or I, and we'll get back to you. We'll try to answer as best as we can. Don't be shy, because we're all dealing with this in some way or another. And even the healers do need to do the healing work. And the healer is you, just so you know. You missed the whole message. So the healer is indeed you, and the tools are within you. We're just going to he just facilitates them, and the same thing I do with Geneikin series. So please check it out and go check him out and let us know how we can serve you. Definitely go to my Geneikin show, rate the podcast and like it and share it. And let me know who do you want to see next on the Naked Show. Everybody, you want to say anything else before we go?
Yes. I invite anybody who really is kind of moved or called to join my free Facebook group. You're a part of that, Aura.
Yes, I love
Trigger
it.
Proof. It's called Trigger Proof. I do a transmission every day to give more content, because I'm guiding this community towards the most important thing of all, which is a secure attachment. It is the crowning jewel. You can achieve many things, make millions of dollars, and travel and all of these things. But if you haven't created a secure attachment, you really haven't. Your experience of life is not at its optimum.
No, it's gonna keep
And
spiraling, and it's gonna keep being ups and downs, and that is a crazy ride to take.
yeah, yeah.
And you don't want to take your loved ones with you, because sometimes it has nothing to do with them. It has all to do with you, and they don't need to feel your wrath and your anger and your meanness. And I know I've been guilty of that. Sometimes I just snap, and it's had nothing to do with what they did or they didn't do. That just brought up a feeling from something else from my past, and I just almost ate them alive. So I've been guilty of that, and I just recognize it faster because I've done the work, and I try to, I apologize, and I reconnect in order to heal that wound before it gets bigger, because words can indeed hurt. And if you are noticing yourself being truly mean to your loved ones that we are sequestered with and your kids, those words are going to cause injury in their brains, in their little hearts. They're going to cause wounds, and then they're going to have to do even more work. So check yourself in the mirror. It's time to do mirror work. Anyhow, everyone, have yourself a blessed Friday. Please comment below, share with friends, like, get engaged. This is being social on social. For more answers, you can go to gettingseries.com, like to my podcast, rate it, register for Dr. Nima's. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Dr. Nima, for being here with me. I love and appreciate you. Everybody, have
Namaste.
yourself a lovely day. Los quiero. Ciao.